Pastor, obviously with the announcements that have been made, there are a lot of changes going on, a lot of things that are going to be happening.
For sure.
How will this affect Crosspoints? We've talked about you, we've talked a little bit about Pastor Doug and what's going on there. What are people going to see differently here in regards to Sunday mornings and the ministries that are taking place?
Hopefully they'll see no changes at all. Hopefully that the worship flow and the preaching will continue just as it has in the past, and if not improve. And so you'll see different faces in the office. Of course, you'll see presumably more volunteers coming in and sharing and picking up some of the responsibilities, certainly. You'll see more volunteers in the wraparound before the services, what have you. But in terms of the day in, day out worship experience, there'll be little change, of course. That's what I'm saying, and that's what we're shooting for. But hopefully we'll have a greater amount of participation from the laity. As I mentioned in the past, the book of Ephesians tells us that the job of the pastor is to equip the saints to do the work of ministry. And so we are praying that God is going to allow us and show us how we can effectively work with our members in Crosspoints to cover those areas that perhaps hadn't been overseen by pastors in the past. See if more of the laity can take on responsibility in many of these areas. We certainly have, for example, there were people that were being counseled by Pastor Doug. And so who are going to minister to those people?
Sure.
We have the pastoral staff who will remain here, and they'll take up some of that slack, as well as some of the laity that would have background, giftings, and training in that area, in those areas.
So it's really going to be important going forward that while the staff is going to try and keep the services running as we have and continue to tweak things, but that people get involved.
Oh, exactly, indeed. No question about it. There'll be many opportunities, a lot of opportunities for involvement, and we hope that's the case too. We hope that people will sense that, see that, hear that, and respond to the call for rolling up your sleeves and getting involved, making Crosspoint the church that it needs to be and God has called it to be.
With the announcement, it was said that there would be a candidate process.
Yes.
And of course the elders are working on how that's all going to look.
And this is in regards to the senior pastor.
To the senior pastor position, right?
Yes.
Will that have any direct effect on Sunday morning services, on the way that ministries will be run? Will we see any changes to the youth ministry, the children's ministry, the security team, those sorts of things?
No, we won't. What we will see, is the fact that occasionally there will be a candidate, perhaps, who will preach Sunday mornings in our services. But for the most part, we don't anticipate a lot of change.
And will those people be distinguished?
Yes.
For instance, sometimes the associate pastors preach.
Yes.
And so we'd want to make sure that we distinguish if somebody is a candidate or not a candidate.
That is accurate, and we will certainly identify them as such. That this is brother so-and-so from where he's from, and this person is here, and we as a search committee are meeting with this person, and they'll be sharing the word this morning.
And will the people, of course there will be a search team, a search committee, but will the people then have an opportunity to interact with that candidate as well when they're here?
But very possibly. Certainly at the end of each message, we would encourage the various congregants to come and greet that speaker and express to them their appreciation for the preaching of the word. Certainly. There will not be some formal gathering for meetings. I don't anticipate that.
Okay. And then, of course, it was announced that information updates would be given as this is going forward. How will that look? When will that take place?
That'll take place Sunday mornings in our worship services. We'll be faithful to give them updates and let them know how we're progressing. We want to expedite this process. We do not want a prolonged process in terms of search. We want to expedite it as quickly as possible. And so we certainly want to be able to report to them how we're progressing in that.
And one of the things that you mentioned on Sunday morning that I think is key to point out is that in expediting the process, we want to take as much time as is needed to find the right person.
That's correct.
But we don't want to linger just for the sake of taking time.
That's correct. We're not going to take any shortcuts, but we certainly do not want for this to linger on for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and what have you. We really believe that Crosspoints is in a good position, is postured very well to go into some new arenas as a church, and we want that to take place without interruption. And so we're very anxious as a board of elders, as a pastoral staff, to really continue in our endeavor to find the right persons for the positions that we're looking for, in particular the senior pastorate.
Mm-hmm. And so as the elder board is going through this process, as the search committee is coming together, what can the average parishioner do to be involved at this point?
Pray. That's the most important thing the average parishioner can do, is to pray earnestly that God would lead the elders, the leaders of the church, to the right individual. Earnestly pray. Secondly, I'm not aware that there are other things that can be done, as important as prayer is, how the Board of Elders can be served. Certainly, if there are needs, we're going to ask for assistance. If there's a need for support assistance, we'll simply make it known.
So praying in regards to the search, and then being involved in regards to stepping up in other areas of ministry.
No question.
Those are the big things right now.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are, most definitely.
All right. Pastor, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.